Well, good evening, this is Houndog Steve wishing you a very pleasant evening and a very warm welcome to all of you. And I don't always say this, but thank you all so much for watching these videos. I hope there is some use to you, sharing some information and some of my insights and analysis of particular situations going on. And also I am now uploading to Rumble. The channel is linked below in the description box, and it automatically uploads as I'm doing a YouTube upload. It uploads to Rumble. So we are experimenting with other sites just in case YouTube just completely goes batshit and starts really fooling around with or they lose control of the algorithm. That's the other thing. These algorithms are a little bit one-paced. So we need to talk about Russia and Bitcoin. There's been some incredible things taking place, as you know, in Russia and Ukraine. Russia has invaded Ukraine. Now, I'm also going to link below in the description box a questions for Corbett. This is a James Corbett recent video, and it is a great backgrounder on what is going on in the Ukraine right now. And there are all kinds of bad guys involved, not the least of which is NATO, the US, Russia, Ukraine itself. So what is going to happen militarily in Ukraine? I do not believe that Putin wants to take the whole of Ukraine. I think that he wants the autonomous regions to be a buffer zone. That's the Donbass region and the Crimea as a buffer zone, because the NATO troops are on his doorstep. And you know, America would do exactly the same thing if Russian troops were on America's doorstep. Let's say Russia somehow moved into, signed some kind of accord, with Mexico, and you had Russian troops amassing on the US-Mexican border. I think America would be pretty upset about that situation. So this is what is happening. I do not think that Putin wants the whole of the Ukraine. He realizes that Ukraine is a fricking basket case. Okay, and NATO knows absolutely full well that that's what it wanted, was troops on Russia's doorstep. Okay, like I say, that original line was the River Elbe, which is on the Polish border on the other side, which left Poland as a buffer between the UN and Russia. So that treaty has been completely obliterated. Okay, and so this is what Putin wants. He will take the Donbass region, he'll keep the Crimea, he may annex some of eastern Ukraine, but NATO will walk away from this, because NATO will backdoor you as soon as look at you. And when this all goes wrong, when this all falls apart, and it will, Ukraine will negotiate with Russia. NATO will leave Ukraine to solve its own problems, and that will force Ukraine to follow through on its Bitcoin adoption policies. That's what I'm thinking is going to come out of this, and it will happen very, very quickly. This is going to all take place, even by the time you finish watching this video, next few days afterwards. I think that's what you're going to see is going to happen, because, like I say, Russia has too many other problems, in its other regions to take care of. There's the Chechen situation, there's the Kazakhstan situation. Putin does not need any more headaches, but he does need a buffer, and he recognized these autonomous regions, and he promised to protect them. And that's what's going to happen, folks. And so, to completely blame Russia for all of this, Russia was provoked. I'm not saying that Russia is a good guy in this, because any kind of violence is abhorrent. But Russia was definitely provoked by NATO. They knew this would happen, because reverse the tables. If Russia was landing in Mexico and setting up bases, I think that the Americans would have something to say about that. The Ukrainians recently passed a law which said that if you want to be president of Ukraine, Ukrainian has to be your first language. So there's been all kinds of provocation going around all over the place. But this is going to lead to certain consequences going on here, right? Not the least of which is going to be fuel issues. You can imagine Russia and Ukraine export an awful lot of natural gas to Europe. Okay, so if that supply is interrupted, Europe Germany in particular is going to be looking for natural gas supplies anywhere it can lay its hands on those supplies, and that is going to drive the price up. Okay, if the price of fuel goes up, the price of food goes up. If the price of food goes up, you start getting demonstrations on the street. Okay, so the West, of course, is portraying themselves as pure as driven snow, and that Russia is the bad guy here, and they, of course, it's so predictable. You know, Putin is this, and he's the big evil, and blah, 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 blah. So they put sanctions on Russia. And what are those sanctions? One of them is that they have pulled them off the SWIFT system. Now, the SWIFT system is a way of transaction confirmation. It's a code numbering system, and you need it to send any transaction throughout the Western world and the central banking system. So they've now effectively cut Russia off from any kind of trading. So what is Russia going to do? Well, you have to remember, and here's a couple of little articles here. First one is China, and the second one is about India. But India and China are basically tacitly supporting Russia's invasion into Ukraine, and they're not going to do anything about it. And because they are all allies, there's been pressure put on India, especially by the West, to go in the way of NATO and the West. But see, when you have a trading partner, you don't want to break those trading ties. From Modern Diplomacy in Southeast Asia, and this was published on February 28, 2022. The Russian invasion of Ukraine, how India skates on thin ice with its neutrality. New Delhi is in a diplomatic predicament due to its increasing closeness with the West, as well as its long-standing strategic ties with Moscow, which have been in the past referred to as a special and privileged strategic partnership. India's dispassionate posture has earned ire from analysts worldwide, as it is not on the same page as US, that has been confrontational in its approach. The former has maintained a steady silence on the issue by not calling out Russia for its imprudent actions or laying emphasis on Ukraine's sovereignty. And that just shows, when you have trade ties with a country, especially a resource country, and India is not a resource-rich country, they import many resources. Okay, so they're going to think twice before calling out Russia and breaking up that relationship. This from the Times of India. Russia's Ukraine attack forces China into diplomatic dance. And again, this is February 28th, 2022. And there they are. All good friends and jolly good company. Beijing. Russia's attack on Ukraine, which China refuses to condemn or even call an invasion, has sent Beijing into a diplomatic scramble to limit blowback while standing by a partner with which it has grown increasingly close in opposition to the West. China has repeatedly called for dialogue with Foreign Minister Wang Yi, telling senior European officials in a flurry of telephone calls on Friday that China respects countries' sovereignty, including Ukraine's, but that Russia's concerns about NATO's eastward expansion should be properly addressed. And absolutely so. You see, this is NATO's role in all of this. So here you have Russia is supported by the two largest manufacturing countries on the face of the planet and the most populous countries on the face of the planet. And guess what? Russia just happens to be a resource-rich country. This is a match made in heaven. And, you know, they were already discussing under the BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, and China, a whole new banking system. Well, being cut off the SWIFT system, Russia is going to jump into cryptos, and it's probably going to be Bitcoin. Okay, and this is the way the world is going to go. Okay, if you have resources to sell, and one of the things that Russia exports a lot of is potash. Okay, this is absolutely a must-have requirement for farming, fertilizers, and so on and so forth. Okay, well, if you need that, and Russia will only settle in Bitcoin, you know what? You're going to get some Bitcoin and settle. Same with the energy. Same with the food. Ukraine and Russia export 30% of the world's wheat. 30%, that's a third. And, of course, if India, China and Russia get together, they don't need to export anything. And the way that they have been treated, the way they've been ostracized, and the way that the International Monetary Fund, the Bank of International Settlements, and the same with the Canadian truckers, the way people's money was gone after to shut you out of the banking system is enough to send shivers up and down your spine. And so you are going to look anywhere for safety. Now, here's a little article. This is Christine Lagarde, and she is calling for immediate regulations on cryptocurrencies because Russia might do exactly that. Okay, let's just quickly go over, take a look at that. This is from Crypto Potato. ECB President urges for crypto regulations following the sanctions to Russia. And again, this was February 28, 2022. Regulations in the crypto industry are critically important, as otherwise Russia could use the asset class to bypass financial penalties, Lagarde argued. And there you go. There she's telling you that if Russia does that, Europe and the central banking system is screwed big time. No wonder they're in a panic. No wonder they're in a panic. And it's too late, honey. Christine, you're a day late and a euro short. So the central banks are scared to death that this might happen, and yet what have they done? They've provoked the very thing that they're scared to death of to probably take place. Proving once again that Bitcoin is uncontrollable and unconfiscatable. The only thing the authorities control are the on-ramps and the off-ramps, i.e. the banking system where you cash out into fiat. But if you're three huge trading blocks like Russia, China and India, well, you don't need to trade out of the system. You don't need to trade out of Bitcoin. You can just trade direct, peer-to-peer. That's what it's designed for. So there will be no on-ramp and off-ramp. So the EU and the Bank of International Settlements, the central banking system, are absolutely screwed. And they are now on a sinking ship. And you can see that El Salvador has had a wonderfully successful rollout of Bitcoin as legal tender. And here is an article about Ukraine. They were already talking about adopting Bitcoin to save their tattered economy. And this from Bitcoin magazine. Ukraine's blueprint to Bitcoin adoption. Ukraine's strategic path to Bitcoin adoption would likely include nuclear-powered mining and holding Bitcoin as a state reserve asset. Just days ago, on 8th of September 2021, the Ukrainian parliament passed a law that legalized and regulated Bitcoin in the country. The bill, drafted in 2020, passed with the support of 276 lawmakers. Only 6 lawmakers voted against it. Ukraine could plausibly be a natural fit for Bitcoin adoption, as the population is reportedly dissatisfied with their current monetary system, which emerged when the fiat hryvnia currency replaced ruble-venets in a financial overhaul that happened 25 years ago this week. And once one country does this, the number of countries that will follow suit will it'll make your head spin, because they're all going to want to get out of a shaky, sinking ship. Bitcoin has proven to be a functioning currency. And I know that there are gold and silver, but we are now an international worldwide trading economic community, and you just can't do that quickly with gold or silver. Yes, you need the internet, but so does everything else. So does the SWIFT system. None of these systems work without the internet. So as long as the internet is up, we are going to have some kind of international trading system that absolutely everybody has faith in. And that's what the blockchain does, is it establishes trust at a distance. And trust me, even criminals want a level playing field when it comes to money. Everybody wants to know when they send money from point A that it's going to get to point B, and that nobody can get their filthy little fingers in on the deal. And of course, what happened in Canada has tipped everybody off. There's been a run on the banks. This was another reason why Trudeau suddenly did a 180, because the banks suddenly were screaming that, hey, everyone's pulling their money out of the banks, and they will continue to do so. Because you told us that we cannot trust the banks. The banks didn't even stand up. The banks didn't even say, no, we have to protect our customers. So banks, F you. Screw you. Shove it up your ass. Everyone should be rightly peed off with this whole goddamn thing, the audacity of Trudeau to try and seize your hard-earned money because you may have supported the wrong group or pressed the wrong like button on Facebook. And the police chief, the Ottawa police chief, we will hunt you down. It'll take months. We will hunt you down. You goddamn Nazi. This is what it looks like in Nazi land, man. This is what it looks like in Nazi land. Okay, so you scared the bejeebus out of everybody, and everyone is going to rush into cryptos. There is going to be this huge panic now to move out of fiat and get into crypto. So, first I've got to say this, it's not financial advice, but this is my analysis. This is what I'm reading, and the West, the central banking system, has absolutely shot itself in the foot. And it looks good on them because their system was collapsing anyway, and they're going to be dragged kicking and screaming into this whether they like it or not. So now tell me, my friends, what do you think is going to happen to the price of Bitcoin when that all takes place? Okay, I want you to repeat after me nice and slowly. Moonshot. It is going to be unbelievable. The scramble to get into cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin will be staggering, my friends. So just watch out for that. So at the very least, I would find out how to get into and out of cryptocurrencies, how to trade backwards and forwards, how to open a wallet, how to get money out of your bank and into an exchange to buy Bitcoin, and then from an exchange into your own private wallet, whether that be a hot wallet online or a hard wallet offline. But you need to at least learn, because when there is a rush, and I said to people, if they saw the movie Titanic, okay, because that's what it looks like. When there is a rush for the exits, you do not want to be in the way. You want to be in that lifeboat with your little backpack on and all your shit in it, because when this starts to happen, it can happen overnight. It can happen overnight. And so we are at an unbelievable moment in history as we shift from one banking system to finally an honest, fair, open and transparent banking system that cannot be confiscated, cannot be intercepted, and maintains the trust and faith between both parties. Okay, we may use other cryptos for more complicated contracts, but Bitcoin is going to be the main reserve currency of the world. I said this before, I still maintain that, and the more evidence that I see, like we're going there, whether we like it or not. So find out those exits, find out those on and off ramps, do a little investigation into what Bitcoin is, what cryptocurrencies are. There are lots of good videos out there. And yes, protect your assets in these dangerous times when these government raiders can seize your assets on a whim. A whim. Suspicion of. Bear that in mind and conduct yourself accordingly. Okay, if you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe below. And in the meantime, this is Houndog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant evening, and we'll talk very, very shortly. You take care now. See ya. Bye.